Boom. We are now streaming live. I did not, contrary to popular belief, I did not cut my hair. Many think that I cut my hair. I didn't. I actually combed out my locks. So I combed them out, and now it's froed, you know? So it's crazy. Hey, what's up, Lionel? Yeah, my hair's looking crazy, but I love it. I love it. It's a new vibe. So, yeah, man, welcome to Sharin Grooves. My name's Ian McDaniel. And, man, today we're going to talk about something that is super cool. If you look behind me, the studio always looks like it's a mess, because it pretty much is. But it's because I'm always in transition. We're always transitioning into something new, into something different. And I recently received my Patchbay from New Trick. Shout out to those guys, 48-point TRS quarter-inch Patchbay. We also received the Motu MIDI Express 128, which is a MIDI interface. And we're going to talk today about how do we Voltron, if you will, our entire studio together. How can I run all of my outboard gear? I don't have a ton of outboard gear, but I got a couple samplers, a couple Roland SP samplers that have some great effects on them. How can I integrate that with everything going on with Ableton, and how can I integrate that with my synths over here? I got a Korg, a micro Korg, and then we have the Ensoniq SQ80. How can I make this one whole Megatron? And the long and short of it is through a MIDI interface and a Patchbay. So quickly, I'm going to explain what both of those things do, and then we're going to get into how we're using them. So full disclosure, I am not done setting everything up. If you could see the floor right now, it's a huge mess of cables. I got a new drum set. It's just a mess in here, and I'm gonna have people over tonight, so it's just crazy. But I am gonna explain to you what I can today as quickly as possible. So ooh, 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 ooh. And I love this little beat we got going on right here. Sorry, I got lost in it. But yeah, this little beat, hey, what's up, Young Slit, is in the building. That little beat that you guys were hearing was the first thing that I made when I started plugging this stuff up. So essentially, let's get into the, hey, my boy's back in Mexico. My parents are in Mexico right now. They're in Durango right now. Shout out to all my Mexican fam. I am not Mexican, but my family is Mexican. So I feel it. I feel like that was terrible. I'll probably never say that again. But it's true. I love my people. Anyway, bro. So MIDI interfaces and Patchbay. So what a Patchbay does is allows me to route signal pretty much wherever I want. So let me grab the box so you guys can kind of see a picture of the Patchbay here. Oh, I'm sorry to hear it, bro. I'm sorry to hear it. Young Slit said his grandfather passed. Sorry to hear that, brother. I pray for peace for your family, and yeah, I just pray for peace for your family, and that they have peace at this time, and that they have the peace of God, because loss is tough, man. It's definitely tough. But today is going to be very, very educational, super, not even really super big brain. It's actually really easy to understand. So essentially what a Patchbay does, it is, think about if it has, it's like a bunch of cable splitters. That's the best way that I can think about it. So it's a rack of inputs and outputs. I have a row of inputs and I have a row of outputs. And what I can do with that is I can plug all the inputs and outputs of all of my gear and start routing that signal through essentially different splitters. So I can tell my audio, I can basically route it wherever I want. So I can say, hey, I want to go from this synth, the SQ80, into the SP303, into the 555, then into Ableton, into my computer, into my interface, then out of my interface through the line out, back into the SPs again, if I so choose. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Man, I feel that, Young Slit. Amen. You know, there's eternal life out here, so we are grateful. So it's pretty great. How that works, like I said, it's just basically having like, it's a really fancy chord splitter. But instead of having to, okay, if I want to route it into the 555 and then into the 303, or I decide, oh, well, now I want to use this other synth and route that into the 555 and then route it into the 303, I don't have to unplug things. All I have to do is patch. All I have to do is tell it where to go. So you guys can see on the YouTube, you can see, I really should have a picture of the Patchbay pulled up so I can explain it better. I think I'm going to do an in-depth video on this in the future, but just kind of giving you a quick rundown. It basically allows me to not have to unplug things. You ever seen those old school movies where the telephone operator is connecting calls? That's essentially what I'm doing. But instead of having a two-way call with two people, I can decide, yo, I want the call to go from Nebraska to Oklahoma to California and then to Canada and back. And now I can do that with my gear. So that's what a Patchbay does with audio. Now, the other thing that I got to really Voltron my entire studio together was the Mo2 MIDI Express 128. So that is a MIDI interface. Basically, what a MIDI interface does is allow for my computer now to communicate MIDI information, which is like notes or automation. I can communicate all that information to all of my synths, and I have 8 different channels in which to do that. And within each channel, there are 16. Sorry, MIDI is 5-pin with 16 different channels within each channel. So essentially, that's where you get the 128. So I have 128 things going on. I can send MIDI information from Ableton into 128 different places. So now, instead of having to play my SQ80 directly on the SQ80, which I would love to do, I can send MIDI information through my push, out of my push into Ableton, out of Ableton into my MIDI interface, and then out of my MIDI interface into whatever synth I want. So I can play 3 synths at once using my push. I can play, I can do anything. I can program everything by clicking and then send that information to my microKORG, and then I can automate with my hands freely. I can do all those things. And not only does it let you send the MIDI information, but with MIDI 5-pin, I can also send tempo information. Whoa, that's so cool. Oh my gosh. And the reason why that is cool is because if I'm using the sequencer on the SQ80 along with the sequencer on Ableton, I can have them basically on the same page, on the same beat, on the same note. That way, I don't have to play everything perfectly. I can just kind of have everything quantized. Also, what that does for my effects boxes, like my SP, or if you have a delay pedal, like guitar pedal or something that receives MIDI information, MIDI tempo information, like a Line 6, any of the Stomps or the HX series, all of that stuff. All of my delays will be exactly in time with what's going on in Ableton. Fantastic stuff. It's amazing. So I'm basically, my whole entire studio is Voltron together. Not only that, but like I said, with the Patchbay, we have line outs on my Apollo. So I can send, something that I played on a VST on a virtual instrument. I can send that audio out of my interface into my Patchbay and then send that audio into any of my outboard effects that I have. So essentially, what a Patchbay and a MIDI interface allow you to do is integrate your entire studio, where I can control everything in the studio, essentially, through Ableton directly. And it's fantastic. So I don't have everything plugged up yet. That's something that I'm working on. But I can kind of give you a quick understanding of what is going on here. So give me 1 second. I'm going to play a little snippet of a track that I worked on this week. I didn't do a lot this week, to be honest. I didn't get on the stream last week either. It was a rough week, but what's up, Didis? Outside artist in the building. If you need art, let him know. He's a fantastic visual artist and musical artist and engineer. I didn't work on a lot this week, but I'm going to play this track while I plug up the SP, and I can kind of give you guys an idea of what is happening in my studio now. So give me one moment. This is my attempt at an Alchemist Griselda type beat. I think it's kind of hard. But yeah, I'm going to play this for you while I plug this stuff up. So give me a few minutes. I'll be right back. Hey, Aunt Morgan in the building. Aunt Morgan's always asking for his money. You're not gonna get it today, buddy. Don't worry about it. He left his own street. Yo, you're funny. I am scared. So now the cables are a mess, which is another reason why I got the Patchbay, so I can leave everything plugged in and just get it real neat one good time. But yeah, we're working on it one day at a time. So the cool thing about the Patchbay is I can plug things into the front. I can plug things into the back that are always going to be hardwired. Is pretty amazing. So what I'm doing here now is, see, this is the other thing about a Patchbay. You have to label it, because now that I've plugged these in, I don't remember which inputs I put them on. So I'm going to go check. Boom. Lots of cables. So now that I've routed these things, let me turn on the synth and I'm going to explain what's going on. Other than the fact that I need longer cables. So what I've done right now is I've moved, essentially I've moved the output of the SQ80 is going into one of the inputs on the Patchbay. So the top row on a Patchbay are for sound going in. The bottom row on a Patchbay is for sound going out. You go up from down, up to down, up to down. You feel me? So I've routed the SQ80 into channel 11, the input on 11. Does that work for headphone amps too? Yes. You could be, it's a passive piece of gear, so yes, it could work on a headphone amp as well. You just wouldn't have any more control over the mixes, you know, unless you run it through something else and then run it back into the headphone amp. But yes, you could do that. So basically, I'm gonna go from the output of my SQ80 into the input of my SP555, out of the output of the SP555 into my interface. And I'm going to do all that without having to plug anything anymore because now it's already routed on the back. So I just have to patch it now on the front like those telephone people. So I'm going to do that now. Again, this is where exactly. Didis asked, the outside artist asked, gotcha, I need to get separate mixes with the Behringer into the Tascam. Exactly. So this is the part now where I'm going to start patching. Again, really with the Patchbay, bro, labeling is going to be so crucial. I just haven't found the exact flow that I want quite yet. But once I do, then we're going to get everything labeled. Otherwise, you have to go to the back of your rack every time to see, oh, what did I plug in here? What did I plug in there? You don't want to be doing that. That defeats the purpose of the Patchbay. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I have not done that. So let me do that. Let's do this. I'm going to open up a different track so I can play something while I figure this out. With it not being labeled, it definitely does make it harder because you got to kind of remember where stuff is and nobody ever does. Something I did see that who does this? So the two main videos that I watched to learn were Ricky Tinez has one. He's a great guy, super synthy dude, really good dude. And then he recommends another video. I can't remember who makes the video, but he recommends another video, and that was the other video that I learned a lot about on how I wanted to route mine. And that guy uses an Excel sheet. So he has an Excel sheet in his Google Sheets that he keeps so he doesn't forget where stuff is. And if he needs to relabel, he doesn't have to print out new labels or make new labels every time. So this is a track I made last week too, but I'm gonna use this to kind of add some stuff on top, and we'll show you what's going on. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm getting hella noise because it's up way too high. Also, and this is something that I am not a fan of. This is one of the only things I don't like about the Apollo, is that if you have an XLR plugged in, it automatically puts it at mic level, and if you have a quarter-inch plugged in, it automatically puts it at line level. And that it's like if I'm using an all TRS quarter-inch Patchbay and I want to send something in at mic level, then I need to already know, like, okay, these are all going to be mics, so I'm going to go XLR into the Apollo. So that is one thing that I'm not a huge fan of. And you can get around that if you were using like an X16, but if you're using X16, there's no preamps, right? So you have to have all external preamps. This is a whole thing. So that is one thing that I don't like, but that's why it's coming in super hot, because it's coming in at mic level. But for those of you on the YouTube, you can see now what I've done is I've patched from 11, which is the SQ80, into the input of the SP555 on channel 10, and then out of channel 10 into channel 2. And channel 2 is the second channel on my Apollo. So now the sound from my SQ80 is moving into the computer. So if I go ahead and let me just make sure people on OBS can hear this. Cool. So now if I do an effect on my SP555, I'm going to add an effect to the line in section on the SP555. You're going to hear that effect on the SQ80, even though they are not directly joined together. They're joined together through the Patchbay and then into the Apollo. Hear the delay? And right now I'm playing that directly on the SQ80. Now that I've explained the Patchbay part, let me go ahead and explain the MIDI interface part, as we turn our studio into an entire Voltron. So for those of you on the YouTube, you'll be able to actually see my screen. But now I'm going to, first I need an audio channel so that Ableton can hear the audio coming in. So I just have to set this Bink and channel 4. Again, there's a bunch of noise on the channel. Now it's coming into Ableton. So now that that's going on, I'm actually going to mute it on the Apollo here. And I'll probably turn down the SP because it's just no need for it to come in that hot. But now what I'm also going to do is route some MIDI information from Ableton through the push into the synth. So now I'm not even going to touch the SQ80 anymore. Oh, there goes Sandro. That was my buddy Sandro calling you. Sandro, I will call you right back. I will call you right back. So let me actually text him on the computer. Boom. Text sent. Beautiful. All right. So now I'm going to send the MIDI information and tell it where to go. So again, I have my MIDI interface plugged in, the Mo 2 MIDI Express 128. So now I'm going to make a new MIDI channel. Insert MIDI track. And here in Ableton, I can route the MIDI. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. So instead of receiving MIDI from all ends, I'm going to only receive MIDI from the push here. So now when I touch the push, you see this yellow line going up telling me how much velocity I'm putting in on those notes, and that's beautiful. So now for the MIDI output, I'm going to choose the MIDI interface, and I've already told my SQ80 to receive MIDI information on channel 2, if I'm not mistaken. Let me triple check that I have that done correctly. Indeed, it's done correctly. Thank you. Big Jack in the building. High City Tape. They can't keep us down, this So I told it to go to channel 2. Cool. So now watch what happens. Oh my. Am I playing the SQ80 with my push? Isn't that amazing? OMG. Why would you want to do this? Like for me, I want to do this because I am not great at piano. So what I can do on my push, hey, Jesus saves every day, all day. I'm sure I'm moving the camera for the guys on the Instagram. But what I can do on my push now is tell it, you can kind of see the push screen. I can go scale because I'm not a great keys player. And somebody's, hey, we're playing an A. We're playing an A minor. Or, you know, it's a Lydian mode or da-da-da-da-da. I don't know. You know, I know my professors would be sick with me. I don't be knowing, bruh. But I know I want it to all sound cool. So I might go to E minor. I can put it on in key mode. And now I'm playing my SQ80. Clipping out of this world, but I'm playing my SQ80 straight from my push and running it through the SP555. So let me turn down the 555, right, because it's coming in hot. That's better. And now if you own an SP, everyone gets, at least I literally bought this for $500 just so I could get the vinyl sim. And honestly, it's not even the best vinyl sim out of all the SP series, but it did have the looper and da-da-da-da. So let's run this through the vinyl sim and see how it sounds. And I'm playing it from my push because I'm not great at keys. And you just need to tell me what key we're playing in. So you can already hear the noise from the vinyl sim. I turn the 555 down a little bit. Awesome, right? Jack says B flat. Sure. Let's go B flat major and see what happens. I don't know. I'm learning every day. But now I'm going to go ahead and select a cooler sound on the SQ80, play it from my push, because I'm sending MIDI through Ableton, and run that audio through my SP before it ever touches my computer without having to unplug anything. That's all right. Awesome. Freaking awesome, dude. So I already had this track up, so I'm gonna try to add something on top of this. Again, do not have to know everything about. Now, knowing theory and stuff is helpful, but thanks to Jesse Jackson, not the civil rights activist, but the audio engineer. I think he's from the UK. I don't know. He mixes a lot of Kanye stuff. He helped create this program called AutoKey here. I can slap this AutoKey on this guitar track and it'll tell me what key I played in, because I don't know. I played an E major. Now I go back to my MIDI channel. I tell it scale. I go E major. That doesn't sound quite right. But I can tweak it and get. Oh, it's actually E minor. It's obviously minor. Smoking. And now I'm playing an E minor. And what's even cooler is because I was playing it with my push through Ableton, I can click MIDI Capture, and I don't have to remember what I played through my awesome vintage synth. It's already there for me. I'm not doing anything. It's all in Ableton. How fantastic. So cool. So essentially, the way that you would have used like a MIDI sequencer back in the day, I can use Ableton as that MIDI sequencer and be able to change things on the fly and reprogram songs and copy pieces in a way that would have taken longer back when my SQ80 was made in, I think they came out in 87, 89, I don't know, 86. I think that's SQ80. Anyway, so that is the reason why I bought a Patchbay. That is the reason why I bought my MIDI interface. And let me show you guys one more thing before I get out of here, because then I will have to leave here. Now that I found these little chords that I like that I just played, not a perfect 4, I played 5, but I can loop that. If you're watching on the YouTube, you'll see it on my screen. I can loop this little section of MIDI here. I'm looping it, and then I can just record the audio with my effects from the SP and even automate it on the fly if I like. So I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to automate it with the cutoff filter with the vinyl sim. So wow, that's so cool. Oh my gosh. Now this is the final thing I want to show you guys. That because like I told you earlier, my Apollo has line outs. I can send those line outs via either optical or via DB25. I've chosen to do a DB25, the TRS cable, into my Patchbay. And now watch what we can do. Now, I only have one effect set up. I only have the SP set up right now. But if I had a bunch of stuff, I could do even cooler things. I only have really 2 samplers here, 2 effects boxes. And SP community, don't crucify me for calling it an effects box. But what I can do is set up these outputs here, a couple stereo outputs in Ableton. And now I can route this signal out. Instead of sending it to the master, I can choose an external out. And I can send it to, let's say, channel 3 out. Or I can, you know, you can choose a stereo out as well, but for this, I'll just choose that. And then I make sure that in my console here, I have the outputs also correctly routed on the in and out matrix. So on my output, I'll see that line 3 is actually on channel 5 of the output because 1 and 2 are occupied by the monitors, right? So now I'm sending line 3 out of channel 5. So then I know that channel 5 is, and again, this is why you want to have the Patchbay labeled. I need to ensure that I have the Patchbay labeled correctly. So I'm going to go to the back and see where I routed it. And then, of course, later I'm going to label it. But give me 1 second. So if I did my math right, it should be this furthest one at number 24. So now I'm going to unplug all my patches and create a new patch. And I'm going to go from this 24 here, and I want to go into the SP. So I know that the SP is on channel, I'm going to have to look. Yo, hey, people don't know what it takes to be a producer. It's true. You know, you can do everything with the laptop too, but if you get really deep in it and get a bunch of outboard gear and start putting everything together, it becomes fun to build your spaceship. I feel like I have my own little spaceship that I get to build, and it's fantastic. So we're always going top to bottom. So I'm sending out of the Apollo into the Patchbay at spot 24 into channel 10, which is the input of the SP, all with one switch. Fantastic. I changed the effect on the SP so you guys will be able to hear it. But now I'm going to open up. Well, actually, I'm going to open it up on the Apollo just so you guys can hear it. I'm not even going to have it go back into Ableton right now, but just so you guys can hear it. And then I'm going to probably get off. I'm going to go ahead and play. Okay, so it looks like I was wrong. So if that's 3, 4, 5. sending it to external out, which is 3. And if I offset it, see, this is the part where you gotta really think about it. So this is something I might have to kind of fiddle with later, because my output channel 5, which should be line 3, gotta really think about where it's going here. One sec. Oh, see, and this again about the Patchbay. I do have double screens actually, but I need triple screens because I have like all the OBS stuff on one screen and then Ableton and stuff on another screen. So after I come out of the channel 3 into into the SP, I gotta come out of the SP, right, into my interface. And that was the issue there. Yo, so I will actually have to look at this. I got to see how I'm routing the output. So it looks like I got it wrong. So again, with the Patchbay, sometimes things go wrong. I have to get it right. I just got it yesterday, so we'll get it right next time. But that's essentially how Patchbay works. That's how MIDI interface works. Didn't make anything today, but I hope you guys learned something. I think I'll make a more in-depth video about this in the future. But I do this podcast, I guess it's a podcast or a live stream, so I can teach people something, and also so people can see what it really takes to make music, because sometimes it takes a lot, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, thank you guys for coming out. This was Findin Grooves. Have a blessed one.